Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
This individual has put my team and our team directly in harm's way.
Catching a criminal. The Sea to Sky Gondola puts up a huge reward to help find whoever is responsible for cutting their cable twice. Also,
politics doesn't help anybody. Policies do.
From Yaletown to Maple Ridge, campaigning politicians all say they're the ones who can solve crime in our communities. And
more happy news for a struggling family. Southern resident killer whales welcome a second calf.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
good evening. Thanks for joining us. It is a major reward to help catch the person who caused millions of dollars in damages. The Sea to Sky Gondola is offering $250,000 to help find the person responsible for cutting its cables.
It's the second time in just over a year someone has managed to climb the tower, cut those cables, and send dozens of gondola cars crashing into the mountain. But as Deborah Goebel reports, the hope is this time will be the last.
First time, it was unique in the world. The second time, we're targeted.
No one was ever charged after the first time the cable was cut. Now that it's happened again, the owners of the Sea to Sky Gondola are offering a reward. With a $250,000 incentive, they're hoping someone out there might be willing to share information.
It's us digging deep to try and give the RCMP an additional tool.
We have received some information. The public's come forward to us, but at this stage we're still seeking some additional information.
There is actual footage from new security cameras put up after the first time the cable was cut, but for now, RCMP aren't releasing it to the public. Officers are, however, combing through it.
We're only about 11 days into this investigation. It's at a very, very critical stage. And we're looking for only one thing, and that would be any footage.
Any dash cam, business, or residence footage taken along the Sea to Sky Highway north of Squamish or around the gondola between 8 p.m. on September 13th and 2 p.m. on September 14th. Calling the person or persons who did this criminals, RCMP aren't saying whether it believes it was done by an organization and did not answer when asked if a manifesto was received. But members from other RCMP detachments have been called in to help with the investigation.
This individual, on both occasions, came very close to hurting people.
The gondola is being once again restored.
Millions. It'll be millions.
As many as 25 cars were destroyed, but Sea to Sky Gondola employees are working to clean up the destruction.
Some things are more complicated this time than last time. Some things that are simplified through our experience of last time and how we protected the line. But it offers new challenges.
Still, no matter how challenging, the company is promising the gondola will once again be rebuilt, with everyone involved hoping the $250,000 reward ensures it never happens again. Deborah Goebel, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, as week one of the BC Provincial election campaign comes to a close, party leaders were out in different communities focusing on very different issues today. NDP leader John Horgan was in Coquitlam to highlight a 75-unit middle to low-income housing project that's almost finished. Horgan highlighted other housing projects his government has worked on over the past 3 years, like building about 25,000 affordable housing units and bringing in a speculation tax. He also outlined ways his party plans to work on affordability, even as housing prices keep rising.
It is a challenging marketplace. Governments have to make sure that they're balancing the needs of those who invest in housing, those who build housing, but more importantly, they have to make sure that those who want to live in the housing are able to do so. And that involves lifting wages for everybody, capping rents, doing our level best to make sure that there's a level playing field so everybody can participate.
Meanwhile, Liberal leader Andrew Wilkinson was in Yaletown today with Vancouver Falls Street candidate Sam Sullivan. Wilkinson focused on crime, homelessness, and addictions. Although he didn't unveil the Liberals' plan, he did outline what he believes is the biggest issue of the election.
The issue in this election is how we recover from the pandemic, how our tourism industry can survive, how people can look forward to getting a good job and maintaining their way of life. That's the number one issue. And sadly, the economic recovery plan put forward by the NDP a week ago did nothing meaningful to address those issues.
And Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau campaigned today in her Vancouver Island riding. She talked about the importance of early childhood education.
What I've advocated for the last 3.5 years is that we ensure that as we move forward, we are moving early childhood education into our public education system. So it's not a question of affordability. It's a question of every child being able to benefit from those incredibly important years.
Furstenau says more party candidates will be announced tomorrow.
3 cities, 3 days, one message.
Since Wednesday, Liberal leader Andrew Wilkinson has visited Victoria, Maple Ridge, and Vancouver, talking about how each community is struggling with homelessness, drug addiction, and crime.
But as Jesse Johnston reports, talking about those problems is easy, solving them much more complicated.
Victoria Wednesday, Maple Ridge yesterday, and in Vancouver today. Different cities, sure, but in each place, Andrew Wilkinson's talking points were the same.
We have major issues in this community with street violence, with theft, with property damage, and especially with intimidation.
It may sound like a strange message in Yaletown, where 7-figure condos are tall and $7 coffees are grande, but there was a stabbing here yesterday, and certain crimes such as business break-ins and assaults are up.
So these ones you can just maybe pop up and then put them away.
Lana Tran, who has had the windows of her store broken 3 times, says the neighborhood is changing.
Definitely there has been an increase in sort of density of the homelessness and the drug addicts.
Complaints have increased since the province bought 2 nearby hotels and used them for social housing. But homeless advocates say the problem here in Yaletown is much like the problem all over BC. Vulnerable people don't have enough support.
There's public defecation. Well, we don't have any, there's no toilets. You know, there's people are using drugs. Well, there's no consumption sites. People are unhoused and they're weird. Well, there's no treatment, there's no services, and there's no housing.
The Liberals, NDP, and Greens all say they're the best suited to solve those problems. But Tran says no party can fix issues this big on its own.
This cannot lie on just one group or one government or one people. I mean, as we spoke earlier, this is affecting everybody. If you actually did a connected web of, you know, how many family members and friends and then businesses are all connected to this, this is a massive thing.
The Liberals, NDP, and Greens will lay out their plans to address housing, addiction, poverty, and homelessness in the coming weeks. Tran hopes those announcements focus on solutions and steer clear of political bickering.
Politics doesn't help anybody. Policies do.
And in an overdose crisis during the middle of a pandemic, policies are needed now more than ever. Jesse Johnston, CBC News, Vancouver.
As BC winds its way through a provincial election, a federal campaign likely will not be happening this fall. The federal NDP announced it will support the Liberal minority government in return for some concessions.
Today is a historic moment where we have, in the first time ever in this country's history, established a federal paid sick leave.
Singh says the deal will widen access to paid sick leave for millions of Canadians during the pandemic. It also includes keeping federal benefits for workers impacted at the same level. Those receiving the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit were set to lose hundreds of dollars a month. The deal will now be enshrined in a bill up for debate early next week.
Capping a week of troubling numbers, BC's provincial health officer announced another 98 new cases of COVID-19 and 1 new death today. There are a total of 1,349 active cases in the province right now. 62 people are being treated in hospital. 19 of them are in intensive care. COVID-19 is responsible for 230 deaths in BC. In a statement, Dr. Bonnie Henry advises us to step back from in-person meetups to keep friends, family, and communities safe.
The only COVID-19 testing clinic in the Tri-Cities is expected to close October 2nd, but now a new one is opening in its place. Doctors from the Influenza-like Illness Assessment Clinic in Port Coquitlam sent a letter to residents announcing their closure. Staff there say they're just overworked and lack the resources they need. The clinic was only meant to be a temporary one after the closure of a clinic in New Westminster until a high-capacity testing facility opened. That's now happening soon. On October 5th, Fraser Health will be opening a new COVID testing center in Coquitlam, located at TransLink's Coquitlam Central Park and Ride Lot. The new center will be able to do as many as 800 tests a day. This center will take drive-through patients and walk-ins and will be open 7 days a week. And in response to the burnt-out doctors in Port Coquitlam, Fraser Health says it extends its gratitude to those physicians who did important work.
The Prime Minister says the RCMP's policy requiring frontline officers to wear N95 masks amounts to discrimination. Justin Trudeau says the rule, which requires officers to have a clean-shaven face to safely wear an N95, disrespects those who choose to keep their beards for religious reasons. Dozens of Mounties, including Sikh and Muslim officers, have been reassigned to desk jobs because they chose not to shave.
The presence of diverse Canadians in our police forces and in all our systems of authority is something extremely important for all Canadians.
Trudeau says he hopes the RCMP will rectify the matter quickly. Yesterday, Dr. Bonnie Henry said that N95 respirator masks are not needed for most law enforcement duties.
A man has now been charged after a car crash that killed 3 international students in Kamloops last year. Mounties say early in the morning last November, a speeding pickup blew through a stop sign and slammed into a car. The truck driver took off. 3 of the 4 young men in the car were killed. Police say they were international students and alumni from Thompson Rivers University, heading home after a night out and using a designated driver. Mounties say 31-year-old Reed McKnight is now charged with dangerous driving causing death and failing to stop after a crash. He's also charged with several weapons offenses.
And let's take a look at that forecast now. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us. And Joe, just a lovely afternoon. This weather pattern has been great. Rain in the morning, and then we all get a breather in the afternoon.
I'm really pleased you thought of the silver lining of the 3 days of a deluge, actually. You're right. It's lined up so that anybody out walking their dog and child got soaked, and then the sun came out in the afternoon. Let me show you pictures, though, from this morning's wind, because that was the other part of the story today. Wind gusts to 50, 60 kilometers per hour across Metro Vancouver led to about 4,000 power outages earlier today and good waves on the water. Take a look at the temperatures now, though. Cool behind the atmospheric river. And yes, I did say behind. I will take you through a very different forecast coming up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Joe. The federal government is now modernizing its fleet of search and rescue planes, and the first of 16 new aircraft was unveiled today on Vancouver Island. The C-295 Kingfisher is billed as more reliable and more technologically advanced than the Buffalo and Hercules aircraft currently used for rescues. These planes will be used across Canada, extending right up into the Arctic. The government says integrated sensors in the planes will be able to spot people or objects more than 40 kilometers away, even in low light conditions.
Very impressed with the aircraft itself, the flying ability, but it's inside it is what's even more important. The sensor capability, what you see inside, is the real game changer for search and rescue.
The rest of the planes, which are made by Airbus, are expected to be delivered by 2022. A new training center with a flight simulator is also coming to Comox. The fleet costs taxpayers $2.4 billion.
COVID numbers not seen since the month of May. What the province of Quebec is telling its residents next. And thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Health experts have been speaking out for months now about the ways that COVID-19 disproportionately affects Black Canadians.
Now a new study in the works aims to find out why. As Vicodopia explains, it's using antibody samples from Black and non-Black Canadians across the country.
We got gigs here, come on, free COVID tested.
A block party for our times. In Toronto's COVID hot zone, where Black people are the largest population group and infection rates are high, people are encouraged to come out of their apartments to get tested.
It decreases that anxiety. It helps people feel comfortable.
There's good reason to be anxious. Data from the U.S. show visible minorities are more likely to test positive for COVID-19 than white Americans. No such research is available for Canada, so visible minorities don't know their risk level. But data from Toronto Public Health is revealing. Less than 10% of Toronto identifies as black, yet they represent 22% of cases, while whites, who make up almost half the city, account for 17% of cases.
What is less clear in the Canadian context is why.
This infectious disease doctor plans to find out with widespread antibody blood testing in Ontario's black communities to learn who's already been exposed to the virus and discover who's most susceptible.
And how measures ought to be ramped up or directed at minimizing the risk of further outbreaks within certain communities based on the risk factors that we identify.
But finding black volunteers to give blood for science could be difficult. So says this local leader. There are several historical and cultural reasons why black communities sometimes avoid the healthcare system in Canada.
There's a lack of, truthfully, in those communities, lack of doctors. There's a lot of walk-in clinics, and then the emergency doctor becomes the family doctor, which is not the right way to do it because there's no history, there's no trust.
So Shaw is trying to build that trust in the project by encouraging people to sign up, just as he has.
No, it wasn't bad. It's just like when you get...
Vic Adopia, CBC News, Toronto.
We are back in just a few moments. Widespread availability of an approved COVID-19 vaccine is still many months away. But out of concern for a potential twindemic, there's been growing encouragement this year, especially for people to get a seasonal flu shot. Today, without naming specific countries, the World Health Organization flagged a potential problem with that plan.
There has, in fact, been an increased demand, and we're hearing now that countries that are trying to get influenza vaccine cannot get it.
If there are continuing shortfalls of the flu vaccine, the WHO recommends countries set priorities. They recommend shots for healthcare workers and elderly people first, then pregnant women, those with underlying conditions, and children.
In France's second largest city, restaurant owners, chefs, waiters, and bar staff rallied to protest against the government order for a 2-week total shutdown starting tomorrow. The move is aimed at curbing a strong surge in new cases in Marseille, but locals argue the measure is out of proportion to the risks. They say the new closures will devastate the local economy and plan to fight the order in court. France's labor minister has pledged government assistance for employees along with fixed costs for bars and restaurants.
Back in this country, Quebec just doesn't have more new known cases than anywhere in Canada, but the province has eclipsed its own highest one-day tally since May.
As Justin Hayward reports, now frustrated officials are telling people just how serious things are.
La situation demeure inquiétante.
Quebec's health minister is worried by the constant rise in COVID cases and the private gatherings where it spreads. He's asking Quebecers to give up the partying for the next 28 days.
And I insist on this. It is for a month. This is not permanent. We ask you a month of effort to break the second wave.
That's asking a lot, especially this weekend when some unexpected summery weather will draw out the crowds. This McGill student won't be going anywhere.
Fatigue, very pounding headaches.
He's getting over COVID-19, self-isolating in his apartment, watching the cases rise.
Over the past week and a half, we've seen more and more positive cases come up in other friend groups. I would say in terms of people that I know right now in the McGill ghetto that are positive for COVID, I would say 25, 30 that I know.
The students say they were taken off guard by the quick spread of the virus. Others point to popular student bars near the university, still open for business. It's not just the big cities being asked to tone it down. A student party a month ago in La Pocatière, east of Quebec City, caused an outbreak that shut down this agricultural college. Now it has spread to family farms, like this one, where 6 people have fallen ill, pushing the fall harvest back a month. Hope will eventually come in the form of a vaccine. Quebec is reaching out to medical professionals, from acupuncturists to physiotherapists, to train them on administering a potential vaccine. We need training, says the head of Quebec's Order of Dietitians, but we can do it. But for now, Quebecers are going to have to cancel the parties, even Thanksgiving, if they hope to see family over Christmas. Justin Hayward, CBC News, Montreal.
Some great news for the struggling southern resident killer whales. Scientists say a second calf has been born to J-Pod. We'll show you more after this.
Well, when the $2 coin was rolled out 7 months ago, people called it clunky, clumsy, even flimsy. Today, the Canadian Mint called it a hit and said it's making more. Red Sharon reports.
There it is, in there somewhere, $2 coin number 300 million, all crated up and ready for the Canadian public. A public, according to the Mint, that just can't get enough of the old bimetal bear coin.
A great number of Canadians have been coming up and asking for the coins by name.
Once we got over all that hammering and putting blowtorches and dropping them off buildings.
It was a test that the Canadian population put on the coin.
A test, all right, a torture test. But are Canadians over it? Local MP Ron Duhamel, who's been at every $2 coin news conference and who has a pocket full, says yes.
I'll tell you, they take it whenever I go to pay. It's never been returned to me. And no, I think it's been well accepted.
But wait a minute, hold the coin presses.
Is this the same $2 coin that doesn't work in this change machine, doesn't fit in this pop machine, and doesn't fit in this vending machine either?
Parking meter?
Just loonies and quarters.
Over at the party store, there's no celebration for the $2 coin.
How do we like it? We don't. People don't like it in their change purse. It's too heavy.
She doesn't, but Vicky, her co-worker, does. Hers go in the cup and in the cupboard to work on a dream she hopes to cash in on.
One day it's going to be our money to go on a vacation somewhere.
This hot dog vendor says he could use a vacation from the $2 coin.
I think the $2 bill should have stayed in.
Maybe it doesn't cut the mustard, but it does buy the dog.
Toonie and a loony. Can't get away from it.
All that's left is to bury the debate about its name. A quick poll.
Toonie.
Toonies.
A toonie.
But it's not unanimous.
I'll call it the bear.
Not the toonie?
No, why a toonie? That sounds loony.
The last word, the definitive word, goes to these poor students.
It's money. Money's money. I'll take it any way I can get. What the hell?
He's got a point. Red Sharon, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. Join CBC Vancouver's Gloria Makarenko for a special edition of the Splash Art Auction and Gala. Get your tickets and help support Arts Umbrella programming. Learn more at artsumbrella.com. And don't miss the Mothers Matter Centre's 20th anniversary celebration on October 21st. Celebrate courageous Canadian mothers who have overcome unique educational, linguistic, and cultural barriers. Get your tickets at mothersmattercentre.ca.
Well, a whale of a time for J-Pod tonight.
The aquatic family of orcas has welcomed yet another bundle of joy into their mix.
It's a newborn.
Yes, J41, also known as Eclipse, gave birth to her new baby yesterday afternoon, just a few miles from Victoria. As luck would have it, a group of naturalists were just finishing a tour and they saw the birth. The playful newborn was described as a rambunctious little bundle of joy.
It is the second birth this month for J-Pod, one of the 3 pods that make up the group of southern resident killer whales. What an amazing experience. Can you imagine?
Absolutely.
You go out, you're like, oh, whale tour. Oh, and did we tell you? You might actually see a birth of an endangered orca whale.
There you go.
Very cool.
So when your official job title is Hero Rat, you're expected to be good.
Are you? But this hefty rodent is so good, he's earned a gold medal. Magawa is an African giant pouched rat recognized today by a UK-based veterinary charity for life-saving bravery and devotion to duty in detecting landmines. Over the past 7 years, he has sniffed out 39 landmines and 28 unexploded munitions. In 20 minutes, he can search a field the size of a tennis court. A human with a metal detector would take 4 days to do the same.
Cambodia already has more than 40,000 landmine amputees, so detection makes a huge difference. Magawa is the first rat to be awarded a PDS. That's the gold medal.
There you go. He's actually pretty cute for a rat, this giant pouch rat,
He's
which
doing
I
his
actually
job.
learned about from Johanna Wagstaffe this morning in her morning note.
Well, I'm obsessed with this rat. I feel like this should be the storyline for Ratatouille 2. Come on.
Get on
Way
the horn to the
better
producers.
than being in a kitchen.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do about that. I'll put some feelers out. This is a great story. We've got a very different story in our weather forecast. I know we went from a dramatic switch to fall earlier this week, and now I've got a dramatic switch to summer if we can get through a transitional weekend. Let me show you the big picture on the satellite. That atmospheric river that hit us for the past 3 days that brought us, by the way, more than our entire September monthly rainfall averages. That has sunk south, bringing some good rain to Washington and Oregon, some thunderstorm activity to the interior, but also it's allowing a new high pressure ridge to build in. So I want to show you the big picture. This is a long range forecast, and the yellows and oranges you see here, these are the warmer temperatures. So as I take you through to Monday, Tuesday, look at that big ridge build across the West Coast, and that is expected to stay in place right through next week. Now, the only thing I'm watching that could thwart these sunny icons is the fog. And I know when we get into a fall pattern and we see these big high pressures, sometimes that can lead to fog cover. So I will watch things closely, but expect a showery weekend. We will see some good sunny breaks as well. And yes, a return to summer weather, but Leanne, windows open. That's your forecast.
That is very key. Thank you so much for that, Joe. A little fog cooper isn't too bad, is it, Dan?
If you slow down and enjoy the foghorn, and who doesn't at 2 in the morning?
Oh, it's music
It's
to my
magical.
ears.
With the window open.
Yes, through the window open. All right, that's it for us tonight. Before we go, a reminder, you can watch this newscast live online every day at 6 o'clock.
And you can find us on CBC Gem, Facebook, and YouTube. If you want to watch us on TV during the NHL Stanley Cup Final, we'll be on at 8 o'clock, unless, of course, that game goes into overtime.
And the very hardworking Dan Burritt will have your late local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. And we leave you tonight with some windy shots of Vancouver from this morning. Have a safe weekend.
Cheers.